Hi, we are in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at a forensic accounting and valuation conference, and with us today we have Tom Hilton from St. Louis, Missouri. Tom is with the firm Anders CPAs and Consultants. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about the services you provide, you and your group?
Our firm is a firm of about 200 plus people. We're a traditional CPA firm in the sense of the word. We're a large local firm, probably one of the top 4 in our market space. And I lead our firm's valuation and forensic and litigation practice. And we've got 7 professionals in that practice. And we do a wide range of work in that practice.
Okay, great. How long have you personally been in forensic accounting and business valuation?
My first case in this area was really in 1987, and I've been in it consistently since then, although I will tell you that when I first got in it, I was doing mostly traditional tax services inside our firm, and this has grown over the years, and in the last 20 years it's all I pretty much do.
Okay. Now I know over your career you've evolved into working in various areas of forensic accounting and business valuation. Over the last, say, 4 or 5 years, what areas of forensic accounting and valuation have you worked in specifically?
Well, specifically our practice has evolved to the point that I am now really concentrating on large litigation matters and fraud and forensic investigations.
Okay, that's you personally.
Me personally.
Right.
Our group, however, will maintain, I have 2 partners who do a lot of valuation work. Mm-hmm. I tend to do less of it, they tend to do more of it.
Okay, and what geographic region does your firm's practice provide forensic accounting and valuation work?
Our practice would span north from Wisconsin south to South Florida, and from Kansas City to Virginia.
Okay, so it's not just within the state borders, so to speak.
No, it's not at all. We get calls from any number of places.
Okay. Can you tell us a couple of interesting projects that you've worked on over your career?
Yeah, I've had several. In the valuation side, we were asked about 10 years ago to value a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. It was a very interesting engagement. And about 5 years ago, we were asked by a member of the British House of Lords to value the North American family of companies of his global Indian conglomerate of companies, because he wanted to gift away his North American family of companies to his children.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about valuing a seat on the stock exchange. First of all, why did it have to be valued?
Well, it needed to be valued because the individual was thinking about selling it.
Okay.
And wasn't sure whether the corporation should or not. It's a corporate-owned seat. And so we spent quite a bit of time. There is a history and there is data on the trading prices of New York Stock Exchange seats over time, and the seats go up and down relative in value, in price, based upon what's going on in the overall stock market. It's interesting that there was a correlation between those two at that time. I have found now that's no longer the case because of the scarcity of the seats.
So this is sort of like, in a strange way, related to your home prices in your neighborhood. They go up and down in value based upon supply and demand. And I think what I heard you say, Tom, is they're not building them anymore. They're not building any more seats, so the supply is limited and the demand fluctuates up and down.
There's no question that's true, and it was a very interesting experience for us to be involved in something like that.
Tell us a little bit about the House of Lords.
The House of Lords, this was an Indian, a gentleman from India. His name was Lord Paul, and he was a member of the House of Lords.
This is the UK?
The UK House of Lords, okay. And he was a member of that. He was a businessman headquartered in India, and he had built his company as a shipbuilding company. And that shipbuilding concern expanded globally. And then he opened up a handful of companies in the United States that were manufacturing companies and supplied some of the types of systems that shipbuilders would use. So it became a source of supply to his other global business.
Okay, and then how did you get involved with this?
It was really by happenstance, actually. The North American companies were located in my town, St. Louis, Missouri. And the attorney for the business was asked who could value these companies for Lord Paul for that purpose, and we were the ones who were asked to do it.
Okay. Did you have to travel anywhere to do
I did
that?
not. All the information for the North American entities were local.
Okay.
It was easy for us to get to. Never did get the chance to meet him, and I really would have liked to have done that.
Interesting guy, sounds like. When you do your projects, do you get to travel in various places, or is most of the work in your office?
No, I have traveled to various places. Being from St. Louis, and being the fact that Anheuser-Busch is a big beer manufacturer, now owned by InBev, and wholesale distributors in any industry, but certainly the beer industry is a specialized area. So I have had cases in Virginia, in Wisconsin, in South Florida, where we've been called in to value Anheuser-Busch distributors because we worked closely with the brewery when they were owned by the Busch family.
Okay. Maybe a little site visit with a little taste testing?
Oh, you got to have taste testing, either formal or informal.
Okay, all right. How did you first get interested in business valuation and forensic accounting? I'm certain you didn't come right out of college into that area.
No, I did not. I actually came out of college and I worked for what was then a Big 8 firm, Touche Ross, a Big 8 accounting firm. Touche Ross and Company was its name, and it merged with Deloitte to form Deloitte and Touche, and now it's just known as Deloitte.
Okay.
And I was in their tax department at the time.
Doing tax work.
I was doing corporate, partnership, individual tax planning and compliance. And that formed actually a very good fundamental background and basis for my valuation practice.
In what way?
Well, understanding entities, understanding how whether or not profits are taxed at the entity level or whether they're taxed at the individual level. That actually has been an item of big discussion in the valuation circles, especially in tax valuations, where one needs to look as to whether or not you value an S Corp at a different level than you value a C Corp based upon the cash flow streams.
Okay.
Interesting differences. So that has been very helpful to me, and frankly, the IRS was the original creator of valuation theory going back to the the Prohibition, when they closed down the distilleries.
And the government had to pay for the distilleries they closed down.
And they had to do that, and they had to audit the loss that the owners of the distilleries reported on their personal and corporate tax returns. And so the measure of loss came to loss of business value.
So that goes back to the 1930s.
It sure does.
Right. So how did you get from preparing tax returns to forensic accounting and business valuation?
By accident.
Okay, like a lot of folks did.
Like a lot of folks. Frankly, if you had asked me when I graduated from college 40 years ago, if I would be doing what I'm doing today, I would have chuckled at that thought, because I wouldn't have comprehended it. And my guess is, for students coming out of college today, they're going to have the same experience I had. They will be doing things 40 years from now that they never would have imagined or dreamed possible, that doesn't even exist today.
Right. Interesting world we live in.
It's changing much more rapidly than when you and I came.
Right. We can't even imagine what will be going on that far out in the future.
Cannot.
Can you talk about what you see as the current and future demand for valuation and forensic accounting services?
I could give you my best guess. I can't look into a crystal ball. On the valuation side, I see that particular field becoming more commoditized in certain areas of that profession. In the divorce area, in the tax valuation area, state and gift tax, tax transactions, those areas have become more commoditized at a time when the IRS has implemented penalties on appraisers if they're not doing the due diligence that needs to be done.
Right.
So you're caught in a real vice between meeting IRS standards and producing a valuation for, quote, fewer dollars.
Right. Now you say commoditized, that means that the prices are sort of being compressed down because there's a lot of supply of people doing that work.
I think there's the supply of it. And I also think in some sectors of valuation, there is a lack of understanding by the user of what's involved and the due diligence that's necessary in terms of financial analysis and understanding how a particular company in a particular industry works.
Right. Now, what about your perspective on the demand for forensic accounting?
I see that as steadily increasing for this reason. Going back to when I graduated from college and looking at today, I see a decay of ethical fabric in our overall society. And what I do, and spend most of my life doing now, is I earn a living off the lack of ethical decisions on the part of individuals. And some of them are criminal in nature. And as a result, that will continue. I will stay in business, and those who follow me will, until society learns a little bit more about ethical balance as a culture.
Okay. Now, going back to the staff that works with you and other people that you advise, and I think you do some teaching too, right, in St. Louis?
I teach at St. Louis University.
You teach forensic accounting?
I teach a graduate course in forensic accounting.
All right. Well, what kind of traits do you think that a younger person in forensic accounting and business valuation should have in order to succeed in these areas?
Well, I think that part of the proper traits are the ability to, and this is a tough one, to be able to focus on the details without losing sight of the big picture. And that may sound like a study in contrast, because it is, quite frankly. And there are some folks, when you come up against experts in various cases, who do a really good job of digging through the detail, but then to put it all together and formulate a cogent opinion that a third party can understand becomes a little more difficult, and you have to see the big picture to do that.
So you have to wear more than one hat. You have to look at your detailed hat, then take that off, put on another hat, and be able to see the big picture to make sure the puzzle's fitting together.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. And be able to, I think it's important to be able to do the due diligence and have the intellectual curiosity to do the work such that whatever opinion you put out, you have support for. Because every time you put an opinion on paper, your reputation is on the line.
Right. Any other traits for somebody to succeed in these areas?
Well, it probably goes hand in hand with any advice that I would give to students, because I give them to my students, and I spend time in my classroom working on these skills, and that is the ability to communicate orally and in written form.
Okay, which one's harder?
Well, I think it depends on the person. I think for most people, communicating in oral form is more difficult. They're uncomfortable with standing in front of a group, especially if you're asked all alone, as you are in a jury box, to formulate an opinion and present the opinion and then take the bullets to defend it.
Right.
And that part, I think, is harder for many people to grasp. The written form may appear easy on surface, but I think the proper use of words, especially in the world we live in, where attorneys are reading them and they are about words and we are about numbers, you really have to be careful of your choice of words, both in terms of what it is you're trying to communicate and whether it does it clearly, and the fact that an attorney is probably going to take it and twist it on you.
And I've always said that writing is an act of thinking, and if you can't write well, maybe you haven't thought the problem all the way through.
I think that's right, and that moves back to your level of due diligence, looking at it at a high level.
Right. Okay, to conclude, do you have any advice for forensic accounting or business valuation students?
Well, I can tell you this. Follow your passion. If this is what you want to do and you love it, great. If it's not what you love, get out of it. And really, that I don't care whether it's forensic accounting or valuation or whatever it is, find out what is fun for you and go do that, because that's what I do, that's what you do.
Right. And you got a lot of years ahead of you. You might as well go through life loving it.
Well, as I tell my students, you spend a lot of time in this profession doing what we do, and if you don't enjoy what you're doing and who you're doing it with, you better get out.
Right. Great. Okay, Tom Hilton, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mark.